What's going on, family? Welcome back to Israel's Movie Reviews, and we're going to be discussing the new Texas Chain Saw Massacre movie that just came out on Netflix. I've been waiting for this film for a while, especially as a big horror movie genre fanatic, and I was curious because prior to this film, there've been over several takes on this movie, and I was reading in pre-production this movie was going to take place. Basically, it was going to be an original film, and it was going to discard the previous films except for the first one. So I went into this pretty much, I'm not going to lie, with no expectations, especially after watching the 2003, 2004, and then the most recent 3D one. They all were disappointing. And I figured, okay, if they were going to tell this story, man, hopefully they would have retold it in a very modern but fresh way. And did this movie succeed in that? Well, we're gonna find out together, right? For me, there was nothing much to find in this film. You know, new to Netflix was the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, 2022, the latest sequel to the original Tobe Hooper classic that ignores all of the other movies and goes back to the basics. And I mean literally, because this, in all respects, is a very basic slasher movie in which we see Leatherface, who goes on a random rampage for spurious reasons, working his way through a hippie and cast of influencers who bring a 21st century spin to the proceedings, right? I feel like the story definitely took an original route. I like the fact that, you know, there was millennials who go into basically a remote town in Texas that's pretty much underwhelmed, and they're trying to bring back you know, they're trying to rev it up, right? They're trying to populate it by bringing restaurants, clubs, into the fold. And you have these characters who have good intentions, but ultimately don't realize the time that they're in at the end of the day. But I did love the take on where they were trying to go with the story. I feel like if they would have gave it a bit more, not a backstory, but a bit more detailed in where they came from, at least, why they chose this, how they ended up choosing that place to do that, I think it would have been a way better concept instead of just going for, you know, a political kind of thing, right? You're trying to manifest this community with whites, blacks, Latinos, and stuff like that when it's predominantly a white town. And even prior to them getting to the town, they pulled over by the sheriff, and it was a funny dialogue, you know, where they looking at them and they entering. Who would have thought you see in a Texas Chain Saw Massacre movie, you see a Tesla, and that Tesla throughout the movie goes unharmed in a lot of ways. You could tell that a lot of the budget in this movie went to that Tesla. But at the end of the day, I like that concept, at least. The problem with this film is that it's very generic. Leatherface could easily be replaced with the likes of a Michael Myers or Jordan Voorhees here. He's just a hulking killer in this film. There's none of the airy documentary feel that the original had, that the original was known for. This IP is known for that intricate 60s, 70s look. And this had a little bit of it, not too much of it. And I always felt that Leatherface was just one member of that crazy sadistic family. So it's a shame he's focused on here pretty much exclusively. Obviously, you don't see a family, you don't see a backstory. You see a woman who eventually, that takes care of him, who's his mom, grandmother, whatever it is, who ends up passing in the film. And I didn't like that take that he's exclusively the one that, even though he's the icon, right? He's the iconic killer, but to focus on him exclusively when he's not much of a story, honestly, you know, except for his kills. So I think they misfired there. What they do instead is bring back the heroine Sally from the first film. I'll bet in the guise of another actress, given that Marilyn Burns died some years back. So Sally, she'd been reconned into a Sarah Connor post Terminator 2 copy, kicking ass but adding very little to the narrative. I felt like they were kind of copying or mimicking Halloween in a way with Jamie Lee's Curtis character, an older woman trying to get revenge on somebody that tried to do something 40, 50 years ago. To me, it didn't work in this film. It really didn't. And I don't know why would you go that route. First you bring these young characters into this film, and then you, towards the ending of the film, you want to bring back this old iconic character. It didn't make sense to me. It was nice to see old timers like Alex Cridge from Sleepwalkers and William Hope from Aliens, Hellraiser 2, pop up in this. But their roles are very, very minor in this. What we're left with in this one is pure gore, and if you're into copious bloodletting, then you'll enjoy it like I do. I love that carnage candy, and this movie definitely gives it to you on a superficial level. The chainsaws certainly gets a workout, which is weird given that it's been sitting unattended for about half a century, and yet it fires up. You know, there's a scene where he takes it out of a wall, and he's there, going. And I'm surprised it even works after 50 years. You know, but then again, this is a movie, right? But that's just one of the flaws of the film that, you know, I noticed, which leaves a movie which leads up to pretty much the title. This movie was a massacre in every way. But there are some, like I said, there's some great scenes, there's some great kills. There's a great scene when he enters a bus and chops up everybody in that bus, kills everybody. And what made me laugh was he's there, this hulking figure, and everybody, instead of running for their lives, they all take out their cell phones. Like, I thought it was funny. It didn't make or break the film for me, but it was hilarious. And it didn't offer much. Same thing with, you know, it was gruesome, this movie. It's not one that you'll actually come back to, I feel. You know, I just can't believe that almost 50 years passed since the events depicted from the original film, and we get this. You had a lot of time, you know? It just didn't make sense to me. Back in 1973, Tobe Hooper set out to make this PG-rated horror movie, but despite lacking gore or other events that might garner a higher rating, managed to create one of the most scariest films ever made. And this is in 1973. Almost 50 years passed and several sequels, and this is what we get in the latter film, which arrives, and despite there being a lot of very gory deaths, like I mentioned, it doesn't come close to the scariness of the original, in my point of view. In my opinion, the story is solid enough, but very basic. It has a basic setup. It's obviously just an excuse to have Leatherface pick up his chain and, you know, start killing again. But central group of characters, like I said before, like I mentioned, very solid. You know, they, especially the sisters, Melody and Leela, and their friend Dante. While not everything happened quite as expected, most of the key things that happen are hardly surprising. They're very, you can see them a mile away. There are a couple of fairly weak attempts at comedy. There's not much comedy in this film, such as characters trying to film Leatherface on their phones, like I mentioned, towards the end of the film. Instead of being rather terrified, they're like, the fuck? That just made me laugh. These aren't enough to spoil the film, though, trust me. For the most part, it isn't that scary, although the final scenes do manage to produce some scares, as one wonders. The character setup is obviously the final girl will actually be a survivor in this, but fuck it, I'm gonna spoil it anyways. There are no survivors in this film, which I was happy about. The cast is pretty light. You know, you have Sarah Yarkin in here, Elsie Fisher. And what I liked also about the movie was they didn't push it. This movie wasn't long. I thought it was paced excellently. It's over maybe no more than 80, maybe 90 minutes. It doesn't drag. The makers should be commended for not padding it into a 2-hour plus film, because you didn't need to with this kind of material. It wasn't enough material to do so anyways. Overall, I wouldn't say that this is a must-see, but it's worth watching if you're a fan of the slasher genre. I think if you're a fan of the original, you're gonna take this with a grain of salt. You're not pretty much gonna enjoy it as you should. You know, having been sheltered for half a century, you know, you got Leatherface that's gonna come back and cause more mayhem, right? But this wasn't the proper remake, in my opinion. But I give this movie a generous 6 out of 10. Go check it out for yourself on Netflix. And till the next time, if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. And if you want more content from me, subscribe. Till the next one.